what's up guys, and welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum. In today's video, I thought I would share a monster t-shirt project that I'm working on and talk about some of my favorite creature features that I really like. Probably haven't talked about it on this channel before, but I do have a Cricut, so I make a lot of stuff. I've mentioned, I think, some of the shirts in the past that I've made, and so I designed a shirt that says Squad Goals, and it's got some of the original monsters on it. And I'm going to do it in a raglan shirt, softball tee, for those not familiar with the term raglan. So I already cut all of my pieces. I'm just going to weed them and talk about some monster movies and, you know, how they've impacted my life. I think I've at least, at the very least, I have talked about the fact that I really do like monster movies. And honestly, like, monster movies is a subgenre of horror that I will watch no matter how bad it is. Doesn't matter if it's cheesy, doesn't matter if it's, like, really bad quality or about, like, a really small budget. Like, I will watch all of it. But I think the first monster creature movie that I ever saw in my life was probably Jaws. And I've actually, like, I don't know if it's because I saw Jaws when I was really young, because Jaws came out before I was born. But what I do know is that I have been deathly afraid of sharks my entire life. Horribly afraid of the water, like irrationally so. Like, there have been times where swimming pools made me uncomfortable because I didn't care how logical or not logical it was. As far as I was concerned, sharks could be in swimming pools and they were going to eat me and I was never going to make it. Same with lakes and stuff like that. Never like alligators or anything like that. Always sharks. So Jaws was the first movie that that was like a monster movie kind of thing that I ever saw. And it's interesting because even though I'm deathly afraid of sharks, that was louder than I wanted it to be. I respect them where they are. I'm not one of those people that is obviously like supportive of like killing them and all this stuff with like the fin soup, and it's heartbreaking. And Jaws unfortunately did create this panic fear of sharks, and people started to hunt them just because, and their numbers went down drastically because of that movie. But it is one of my favorites. I do love it. I like all shark movies, actually. There are very few that I wasn't a big fan of. I watched this movie called Shark 3D like a million years ago, and I was so ready for it to just be this horrid teenage party kind of movie, and it was actually really good. If you haven't seen it, it is about these group of friends that are tourists on this island, and they're going for vacation, but there are locals that live there that actually capture tourists and feed them to these different types of sharks. It's like this weird fun thing for them. I don't know. But anyway, so that was actually a really good movie. I did not see it in 3D. I'm looking for scissors. Found them. So it was actually a really good movie. And I've seen, you know, movies like Lake Placid. There's a movie called Land Shark. There's a lot of things that have to do with the water, but I like other monster movies too. I remember this one time, my dad was super pumped to share with me the magic that is the Langoliers, which is, if you don't know, is a book turned movie, and it's quite entertaining, to say the least. It's very funny. But it's very, like the graphics for the creatures, they literally look like giant Pac-Man. And, you know, that's not, I mean, I guess, yes, they kill you, but also, like, it's not really that scary. I feel like it'd be kind of, you know, I don't know, nostalgic to die from Pac-Man. But anyway, so, I've seen some stuff like that too. And then, of course, like, I'm a big King Kong fan. I really love, I actually don't think I've seen every Godzilla movie. I've seen the original. I've seen the Matthew Broderick one. I've seen the remake with Adrian Brody. And I've seen, obviously, the new ones. But I have not seen all of them, but I mean, I like those too. I remember I went in theaters to see the first one of this new set, which I think was just called, what was that one even called? Not King of Monsters, one before that. Um, and I went to theaters to see it, and I remember people just arguing like, you saw him, like, you didn't see him enough, you saw him too much. It's like, it's a really hard balance with movies about monsters and creatures, because if you show too much, right, like, you're kind of opening it up for the audience to become desensitized, which means that either it's A, not going to be scary anymore, or B, not going to be, like in the case of Godzilla or Kong, it's not going to be as cool anymore. But I think that it just depends on how it's done. I didn't feel that way about the last one, and you saw them a ton. Of course, you saw King Kong more than Godzilla, but that's kind of normal. But yeah, so I think that, like, it's a really hard balance for the creators of monster movies to balance the too much and the not enough. That was one of the things that I felt like ruined Annabelle for me, was you saw the demon thing, like, way too much, and I didn't like that at all. Okay, so first part of my design is cooked and ready to go. Hashtag squad goals. And then because there's so many of the monsters, I did like a little, it's just going to be like a little white border that goes around them to separate them. And then these are my colors. Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Dracula, and Wolfman. I actually originally wanted to do Dracula in black, but then I was dumb and got a black shirt, so here we are. Speaking of, so I used to be a really big vampire fan. Like, this is before the Twilight phase. Like, I just always thought vampires were so cool. Love Buffy the Vampire Slayer, to date my favorite show of all time. And I've always just been really into, I've always thought vampires were really cool. And it's funny because I have found that I've gotten older that I don't feel that way. That in fact, I feel like vampires are kind of dumb. They're not dumb. They're just not often done right, in my opinion. Like 30 Days of Night, that is a phenomenal fucking movie. Like, that movie, and I know it's based off a graphic novel series, but like, so good. I loved this concept that they didn't even speak, you know, like they had their own language, the way that they communicated. They were like these ancient, terrifying monsters that had like no respect for human life at all. Even the person that like brought them there and showed them to Alaska and all these things. Like, I felt like that was so awesome. I loved that so much. And then, but I mean, I've seen other, I actually, the first time I ever saw Nosferatu was when I was in high school. I took German for 4 years because I was in this program called the International Baccalaureate Program, and you had to take a foreign language for 4 years. And so by the time that I think that they basically took on too many students for the program, and they didn't know, you know, that was going to happen. So literally, like, there was no Spanish classes available for me to take, which is what I would have preferred. Definitely something that would have been more useful to me in terms of like everyday life. But I digress. So yeah, so I took German for 4 years. And one of the films that we got to watch is kind of like a laid back day was Nosferatu, which is German for vampire, or I might be loosely translating it. Close though. And it was, you know, it's a black and white silent film, and it's beautiful. Like, as far as, you know, what it is for cinema, what it is for storytelling, you know, it's beautifully done. And it's kind of funny to see what filmmakers can do prior to all this technology and stuff. But it was really, really well done, and I really liked it. I've liked several versions of the Dracula story that has been retold. Gary Oldman's is obviously like high on that list. And I also really liked some of the book to movies that they did for the Vampire Chronicles for Anne Rice. Was a huge Anne Rice fan. She kind of gave up on her roots and got a little weird and stopped writing vampire books and stuff because, anyway, I won't go down that rabbit hole. But so anyway, so she was like, I really liked her books. Like, I'm pretty sure when I was a teenager I owned all of them, and I read most of them. Probably not all, but most of them. But I really liked Interview with the Vampire. I really liked Queen of the Damned. Man, that one was so good. And I tell you, I'm torn because I kind of like both versions of Lestat. I kind of like the crazy and I kind of like the broody teenager one. But I think the crazy fits the bill a little bit better. There's our Frankenstein. Love it. Um, you know what other vampire movie was really good? Van Helsing. I loved Van Helsing, and I loved Frankenstein's monster in that too. He, oh my heart, that was such a good movie. I loved it. It had all of them, didn't it? Well, I guess all of them except the creature from the Black Lagoon, but it had vampires and werewolves and Frankenstein's monster. 'Cause he was like the key. Oh my God, so good. That was a really really good one. I have only seen the original Creature of the Black Lagoon once. I think it's another really beautiful one. And you go back and you watch things as adults and you're like, that means something very different to me, and that's kind of what this is. And it took I really want to go back and rewatch it one day because I definitely haven't seen it in a really long time. But I was watching History of Horror on Shudder. And there's this interview with, was it History of Horror? It might have been one of those. It might have been one of those other ones. It's one of the shows on Shudder, though. And they interviewed Del Toro, and he was talking about, like, his, what made him kind of fall in love with monsters. And it was going to see the creature of the Black Lagoon. And he said there's that specific part where the woman is swimming on the water, and he is underneath her. And which, if you've seen A Shape of Water, I mean, obvious influence there, but he felt that part was so beautiful, and it's like this love story and like wanting to be something different and like that sort of thing. So anyway, so it's very things seem to have like a slightly deeper meaning when you're older and you rewatch them. You're kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, like kind of think about it a little bit differently. I did, it is funny though, I say that. I did grow up watching, my dad's like a huge Sci-Fi Channel fan. So we like always had to watch whatever was on like Sci-Fi Channel. Drove my mom nuts. And, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Oh, he's really light. You'll be able to see him really good on the black though. There you go. You can see him. And, but I did grow up watching Swamp Thing, which I loved. I thought that was so good. And I think like werewolf wise, honestly, anything. Werewolves are much more my thing now. Love the concept of werewolves. And I think that shift kind of happened when I started watching, I think probably like the first time that I watched Van Helsing. I really felt like wolves are way cooler than the vampires. Really liked them a lot. So that kind of like started my little transition from vampire love to werewolf love. But I have seen, the original Wolfman was really good. I will say, and I know remakes can be a bit of a touchy subject for some, so try not to scream at me too much through your screen. But I actually really, really loved the remake of Wolfman with Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins and Emily Blunt and Hugo Weaving. Like, I couldn't even tell you. If I had to guess how many times I've seen that movie, I honestly probably couldn't even tell you. A lot. It is a movie that I am very much in love with. I love the gore, the gothic style of like the architecture and the buildings and the scenes and like everything around them. So good. The acting super on point. I love the scenes in the asylum, the little tiny bit of a love story that kind of grows. Like all of that was just so freaking well done. Also, I really like Benicio del Toro in general. I will probably watch anything if he's in it. I really like him a lot. But it was so well done. I loved Ginger Snaps, The Curse. What's that one with Jason Bear? Skinwalkers? That's a super good one. And I've actually talked about this movie before, but that movie that I've mentioned before called Monster Project, it's a found footage film. It has a demon, a skinwalker, and a vampire. And I really like the take of a skinwalker over a werewolf. Just tying in like those some of those other belief systems and stuff I think is really cool. Of course, a skinwalker becomes a skinwalker by murdering. That's kind of like a whole thing. And but I thought that was really well done too, which I've talked about before. That's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite found footage films too. Um, yeah, what other werewolf movies? I'm trying to think. I know there's probably like a ton. I've seen a bunch of them. Ginger Snaps, or Cursed, or The Curse. I don't know, the one with Christina Ricci and Skinwalkers. I talked about this one too. The Hamiltons. Yes, the Hamiltons. That is a really, really good one. Big werewolf movie fan. Helsing was good. If you like to watch TV shows, don't get me wrong, this really pissed me off because it was canceled, but a really good werewolf TV show that I was kind of obsessed with for a while was this show on Netflix called The Order. And it had witches too, but it was essentially about this group of werewolves that are sworn to protect people from from dark magic, and so it's kind of like a back and forth about the witches and the Dracula has a lot of pieces to take out. Holy smokes! And that kind of it like goes back and forth between them. Spike from Buffy is in it. James Marsters, he's in it. But that one was really, really good. I also really enjoyed, this one's dark and heavy, but I also really enjoyed Hemlock Grove. Hemlock Grove to date is one of the best werewolf transformations I have ever seen in a movie or TV show. Like, and I do typically like I prefer the monster wolves. I don't like the ones that just look like normal wolves. I think that's boring. I like when they're like big and scary, like Underworld, and like so many of those other ones, Wolfman, Van Helsing, all of those, they're all big giant ass wolves. Blood no blood for chocolate, like blood, shoot, what's it called? Blood and Chocolate. Okay, Blood and Chocolate is another good one. Where the wolves look very much like just normal wolves, but it was a really good story. I liked it too. I used to be in a writing group where I wrote as a werewolf, and it was like one of my, like to date, one of my favorite characters. Like, they're just so much fun. And I feel like because there's so much lore and there's so much like openness to coming up with like new ideas for werewolves, you can just do all kinds of things and like never get tired of the story. So many things to change it around and make it interesting. So if you guys are fans of Creepshow, there was an episode in Creepshow season 1 that had a really good werewolf story also, and I loved that it had like all these different variations of werewolves. I thought that was really cool. Dracula. Whoa. I tried to get as close to the original ones as I could. I had to pay for my Wolfman because I literally I couldn't find a file that I didn't have to pay for. That wasn't going to look like garbage. But that was a really good werewolf. That had a really good werewolf story too. I desperately need to watch this movie. I actually have not watched Shape of Water, which is ridiculous because one, it's Del Toro, and two, it's Doug Jones. Like, Doug Jones is the creature, which is perfect, of course, because, I'm sure you know, because you're all Doug Jones experts. He was Abe Sapien in Hellboy, which is another really good monster movie. See, it all connects. It all comes full circle. My Wolfman is going to be a pain in the butt also. We may have to speed this part up. But yeah, so Doug Jones is in that as well. I believe, as I'm sure this is the case. I mean, I can't imagine it wouldn't be, but I'm pretty sure that one won like a ton of awards. You know what was another really good monster movie that doesn't really fall into like a set theme? Pan's Labyrinth, which I've also talked about before. That's a good one too. That one has like so many things like lore wise. Like, it's got the fairies and it's got the fawn and it's got all of those characters, and it's really good. Which actually, being honest, that's actually one of the things that I liked about Hellboy was all the different monsters and creatures and things that we got to see. I thought that was like really, it was a lot of fun, especially because I feel like in the second, was it the second one, Golden Compass, where they had more? Yeah, because that's the one where they start out with like the tooth fairies. I forget what they're actually called, but I really liked that one a lot. And the creature that keeps growing back, reincarnates. Um, that was really good. You know, I saw the new Hellboy with what's his name? Is it Josh Brolin? That if it's not Josh Brolin, it should have been Josh Brolin. Where but a lot of people seem to be like kind of skeptical about that one. It actually, I don't think, got really great reviews. But actually, I mean, I didn't hate it. I mean, he was a very sassy Hellboy, which is really, I mean, that's the majority of the story, is him being a smartass and, you know, wreaking havoc. And I thought it was pretty good. I still am a little soft spot for, or still have a soft spot for Ron Perlman as Hellboy, because I love Ron Perlman in general, but I just thought that he did such a great job with the character. And sometimes when you have somebody, especially in multiple movies, and then you do a reboot, like, sometimes it can be hard as an audience to, like, reconnect, because you're just like, oh, I know, but they did it better. Unless it's the opposite and you're hoping they do it better, which is kind of what I'm hoping with Robert Pattinson and his version of Batman, which is not related, but a thought nonetheless. So yeah, creature features. I really like them. My best friend and I were talking about movies, and she does, I'm pretty sure that's who I was having this conversation with. She doesn't feel that aliens fall under creature features, which I don't agree with at all, because aliens are monsters. They're just from space. So it's kind of like, they still count. In which case, I love the Alien franchise. I remember I went to see Prometheus in theaters when it first came out. And super pumped about it. And I was like, I'm going to go home and rewatch the Alien movies, because at that point, it had been such a long time since I had seen them. And I went home and watched it, and I was like, damn, this movie is boring. Like, and don't get me wrong, I still love it. I have a lot of respect for it. But when you go back and you think about it for its time, what it was great. But I don't know that that's one that really aged that well, because there's like nothing that happens the entire like first, I don't even know, 45 minutes of that movie. It's a long time. It is a long time. Wolfman. All right, so I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to go turn on my heating press, and then I'm going to make the shirt. First thing I'm going to do is heat up my shirt. I think that monster movies are a really good intro to horror in general, because I feel like they're just such a, they can be just so fun versus like trying to be dark and heavy. Not that there aren't ones that are, because I mean, that's not a true thing, but I just feel like in general, it's a much easier introduction than like something that has to do with like exorcism or, you know, something along those lines. When you're layering, for, you know, those of you curious, you don't have to do it for the whole time. You just have to do it enough to kind of press it down so that you can keep building on your layers. So because I have to go over all of this multiple times, I'm just going to do this for a second and take that off. And then we peel it. Oh, it's very hot. But I feel like in general, you know, monster movies are fun. They're a very different, at least in my opinion, a very different type of horror versus some of the other stuff that's out there. Teflon sheet. So you put a Teflon sheet over this, it protects what you already did as well as the fabric. So just, you know, fun fact. Again, anyone who's interested. The only thing about doing this in this room in the summer is that this is like the hot room in the house. I'm like sweating to death because it's so warm in here. Okay, and then we boop, 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 boop. And we peel off our handsome creature from the Black Lagoon. I had another file, but it got like really kind of crazy. So I was like, well, I guess that's not gonna work. And I had to do this one instead. So we're doing our last guy. So then I'm gonna go over it again, half and half for 15 seconds. After I pull the plastic off, because it will leave an indentation in the other designs. Oh, you guys are so sexy. I'm so pumped about this shirt. Okay, so we're gonna do 15 on this side and 15 on the other. Do you guys have any favorite monster movies? Ones you love, ones you hate? I can't think off the top of my head of any monster movie that I didn't love. I'm trying to think. I really don't think there was one. I think I liked all of them. I don't know. Maybe not. Oh, you know what was a good one that's more about aliens than like this type of monster? District 9? I almost said District 8. District 9. I originally like started watching that movie and then I wasn't sure about it, so I actually turned it off. And when I met Rick, we were like randomly talking about movies and he was like, yeah, I love that movie. And I was like, I didn't like it. He's like, I think you should give it another shot, because he said it was right in my alley. And it was such a great movie. It was a great movie. It was a great statement piece. Loved it. Okay, be right back with the final design. This is the final design. Squad goals. I love it. I've actually had this design in mind for like a really long time, but I'm just not getting to do it. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed hanging out and talking about monster movies. Let me know what your favorites are, some of the ones that you don't like. If there's any I didn't mention that you think I should see. Always taking movie recommendations. And, hope you guys had a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you in the next one.